Hello everyone, this is Mark Harrell, Senior Pastor, Forest Hills Baptist Church. Thank you for joining me. As we look at the holiday for Thanksgiving and think about what we should be thankful for, I thought about the Old Testament and David's time, because certainly David knew how to give thanks to God. And on one occasion in Psalm 30, we'll see one of those situations he was in where it was near death. Let me read the scripture. Psalm 31 through 4. I will extol thee, O Lord, for thou hast lifted me up, and hast not made my foes to rejoice over me. O Lord my God, I cry unto thee, and thou hast healed me. O Lord, thou hast brought up my soul from the grave. Thou hast kept me alive, that I should not go down to the pit. Sing unto the Lord, all ye saints of his, and give thanks at the remembrance of his holiness. Theologians believe that David was probably sick unto death. When you look at verse 3, and he says that thou hast brought my soul up from the grave, that's very descriptive. And think about maybe situations you have been in. Many times we'll use the saying, I got by that by the skin of my teeth, so to speak. Or, thanks to God I wasn't in the intersection 30 seconds earlier when this major accident took place. Or just being almost sick unto death. So like David, we can face illness, maybe through accidents, those type of things, that we may fear that our very life is in danger. Possibly a heart attack or maybe even a stroke, where God has brought your soul back from the grave. Job 14 verse 5 says, seeing his days are determined, the number of his months are with thee. Thou hast appointed his bounds, that he cannot pass. In other words, God has allotted a certain amount of days, and they shall not be exceeded in our lives. And because of that, we need to give thanks to him that we get through these events in our lives, because I truly believe that those events are there for a purpose, how they change us. You can only imagine the gratefulness of David with his near death, with it being imminent. But God kept them alive. Now, as I look back in my life, I've had 3 memorable events where I could have died. I was around 6 or 7 years old, and I was running across the street, out of all things, running to church for Sunday school, and I was hit by a car. Also, I had a freak accident playing high school football where my throat was nearly crushed. But the most memorable event was in 1975, when I was actually clinically dead for about 4 minutes, after nearly being electrocuted in a tobacco barn accident. No one knew CPR in those days. 1975, we didn't know a lot of things that we know today. So I was left for dead, carried out of the tobacco barn. I was on the floor and just laid out in front of the tobacco trucks that were outside. But then suddenly, I started breathing, and my heart started back beating. God had brought my soul from the grave. The United States Department of Agriculture reports that the farming occupation with deaths and accidental deaths is the second among selected occupations. Of course, the first being the mining industry. But like David, I've been eternally thankful to God for allowing me to live. You can imagine at 15 years old what I thought was so important. And as you know, at 15, you got your driver's permit. You're thinking about, will I be able to afford a car? All those kind of material things. Boy, does it change when God brings your soul up from the grave. It doesn't have to be near-death experience that should make us thankful. God has saved many of us from financial ruin. He's provided work for us to provide for our families. God continually gives us traveling grace. Just simply going back and forth to work, going to the grocery store, the drugstore. For the millions that may be traveling tomorrow for Thanksgiving, I dare say they will not think about the odds of them arriving safely to their destination. Based on mid-October forecast, the AAA has expected up to 50 million Americans to be traveling this Thanksgiving. Now, because of the pandemic, that's a drop from 55 million in 2019. According to the statistics, the majority of those drivers will hit the road actually on Thanksgiving Day and not the day before. Tragically, Thanksgiving weekend is also one of the deadliest times for drivers to be on the roads, with approximately 300 victims killed in car accidents each year and thousands more injured. Every day when I travel to Greenville to work, I pray that God would get me there safely. You'd be surprised, even that early in the morning, between the hours of 5:30 and 6:30 a.m., how many cars are already on the road, not including the deer that like to travel the same road. Isn't it the small things that we take for granted when it comes to being thankful? I'm so thankful that even during this pandemic, God has provided for me and my family. We have not experienced the hardships that others have had to face with layoffs and forced closures for certain businesses. In 1 Peter chapter 5, verses 6 through 7, he says, "Humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, so that at the proper time he may exalt you, casting all your anxieties on him, because he cares for you." How many times have you heard people say, God doesn't care? Well, we know that's not true. He certainly does care for us. And he wants us to cast our worries, our anxieties upon him. Tomorrow, when you're having your Thanksgiving meal, with whomever is present, don't focus on who isn't there due to the pandemic. Maybe think about the lives that will be saved this year due to the greatly reduced numbers of people that will be normally traveling on the highways. Be thankful they are home, safe and sound. Like David in verse 4, "Sing unto the Lord, O ye saints of his, and give thanks at the remembrance of his holiness." Not only was he glorifying God, he was inviting others to do so. Along with my family, I invite you to give thanks to God at the remembrance of his holiness, his protection, his healing, and most of all, for the free gift of salvation to mankind, so that one day we may spend eternity with him. Happy Thanksgiving, and God bless every one of you.